Sign up today for a 7-day free trial at alerts.chartguys.com. Hey crypto friends, checking in on the sector. So we finally got some volatility and it was the most likely scenario playing out. We knew Bitcoin was a bear flag. We knew the burden of proof was on the bulls. They certainly proved nothing to us. So we broke down below 7,700 and we have not found our monthly higher low yet. That being said, every time we see another leg down, I am interested in establishing some low risk positions. And by low risk, I mean scaling in and then positioning myself by scaling out a little bit so I can put a stop loss at break even, or ideally just protect those positions because we know that we will very likely form a monthly higher low compared to 3,128. Is it going to be at 7,300 or 6,200 or 5,500? I don't know. But every single time we see another leg down, knowing that I like oversold bounces, I'm going to play the oversold bounces, position myself, and attempt to get the monthly higher low. Another thing I want to point out before we get into the short-term timeframes here is that if we do form this monthly higher low, we may see the cryptocurrency space see the least amount of volatility that we've seen in multiple years if we see something along these lines. Let's say we form a higher low near these levels. We're then going to look for a bounce and a monthly lower high. We're then going to look for a pullback and a monthly higher low. This could take us into Q1 or Q2 of 2020. So there is potential that we see 4, 5, 6 months of tightening monthly range on Bitcoin. The more we pull back, the better the bounce will be. So those of us that like to reside in all cash and wait for opportunity, we want to see as big a pullback as possible because that means the bounce will see bigger gains. But tightening monthly equilibrium is the most likely scenario in my opinion. So let's zoom into the shorter term timeframes and see where we stand. The daily time frame, the bounce the other day was just a daily lower high. We didn't break 84.69. The bulls proved nothing, and we dropped to the lower low. Daily RSI is not oversold right now, so we can absolutely see another leg down. Just again, keep that in the back of your head. Can we see another leg down? The answer is yes, pretty much always. So prepare for that scenario. The 4-hour time frame, the RSI is crushed, which is why I began scaling in. I had orders scaled in between 7,300 all the way down to 7,000. I only got one fill at 7,311. That's just fine. At this point, it's almost a half-day maker. But again, I'm going to try and let that position ride out a little bit longer. One thing that I do is when I'm looking to scale in based on RSI levels with the hourly RSI, it was down in almost single digits. Now that this bounce is taking place and cooling off those RSI levels, I pull my bids and I reposition things because if RSI levels cool off on a bounce to a lower high, that means that we can easily see a lower low, and that fill that looked really good at 7,200, a half hour ago, it's not going to be the same thing. So I reposition myself based on how RSI levels cool off, based on how much bounce we end up seeing. And at this point, we're going to play the zoom out game. So again, reminder, what's the zoom out game? Exponential resistances as guides. We're looking for exponential resistance to be tested, and we are rejecting on the 15-minute time frame. If we change the 15-minute trend by holding the low and then breaking the high, we zoom out to the hourly, and we look for an hourly lower high to form with exponential resistance as a guide. If we top out on the hourly bounce, set a lower high, change the hourly trend, we zoom out to the 4-hour time frame, and we look for a 4-hour lower high with the exponential resistance as a guide. So again, that's the way that I play these bounces to see how much strength and follow through the bulls can put together. At this point, with only my one fill, my position is not large, so I would comfortably hold this and very happily average down in the low 7,000, upper 6,000 range if we do not see RSI levels cool off significantly. So if the daily and the 4-hour RSI are both oversold, I am still interested in establishing some position. That being said, if we bounce into tonight and we make it up to 7,700 looking for a 4-hour lower high, I would probably exit my position and then look to re-enter on a 4-hour higher low. So looking at ETH bears have been catching up to the BTC bears. The low was 152.11, and at this point, that level is still holding, so we have not dropped to a lower low yet, but we are on the verge of doing so. The bulls, if we can hold this 152 and then break 198, that would be a notable shift. Looking at it on the 4-day time frame, that would be a hold of the double bottom and then a change of the trend. That's going to take a ton of work from the bulls. At this point, they're just trying to defend that support. But what led to the bears catching up significantly to the Bitcoin bears was the ETH BTC bear break of the daily uptrend. So we're not seeing a ton of bear follow through, which is good for the ETH BTC chart. We're now looking for a weekly higher low to form compared to 1614, and the bulls have a lot of space to work with. So the bulls want to see a scenario where we lose the daily uptrend, but bears don't see a ton of follow through, and we're going to have to see a daily trend change back in favor of the bulls in order for our weekly higher low to be established. So because this isn't a downtrend, I personally am going to focus on BTC at this point until I get a bit more confidence in some of these Bitcoin pairings charts that would potentially have me look at other names as well. LTC, weekly bear flag confirmed, dropped down under 50.25. So there's your weekly bear flag and a drop, bear flag and a drop. And looking at the monthly time frame for Litecoin, we're looking for a monthly higher low compared to 2217. And again, absolutely anticipating an equilibrium, increasing bull volume on the way up, declining bear volume on the way down. We're going to be looking for that higher low compared to 2217 and a bounce for a monthly lower high. That bounce to a monthly lower high can very easily see a 50% bounce. Again, there is no sign of our monthly higher low being set, but we are going to anticipate the most likely scenario in this space is for monthly higher lows to form. And while we're seeing this weakness, we have to keep reminding ourselves that, because if we were in a monthly downtrend right now with lower highs and lower lows on these names, I would be way more picky as a bull. I would be way more cautious. So having the bigger, longer term time frame, most likely scenario in the back of my mind definitely keeps me interested in this space as a bull, because I do believe, like I said, we're going to be looking for potential opportunity when the monthly higher low is formed. LTC BTC dropped down to a lower low already, so daily downtrend continues of lower highs and lower lows, and the only support nearby is the bottom of 60.97, which the bulls will have to hold. And if we don't change weekly trends on these BTC pairings, then Bitcoin is still going to be the place to be. XRP was a really easy short. Technically speaking for bears, whether it was the double top rejection that inspired top fishing entries with a stop above that, or whether it was a loss of the daily uptrend after the double top, a late entry would have been 283, and that still alone would have provided very significant opportunity for a very easy, clear technical play. 10% plus of downside ended up being 14% total. Why was this an easy play? We knew we were looking for a weekly lower high compared to 327 as the most likely scenario. We know the loss of the daily uptrend is the indication that our weekly lower high has been set. Double top and then a loss of daily support. You can't get more clear than that. And now we'll see if the bulls can form a weekly higher low to stay in this equilibrium. Bulls will have to hold 2126. Oversold bounce will play the zoom out game. 15-minute exponential resistance still stands. Then we'll zoom out and watch the hourly if that bounce gets going. So nice bounce opportunity as well. Quick little 4, 5, 6% move. But the bear setup, looking from the weekly to the daily on down, was the easy one. BNB USDT was also an easy exit for bulls. I know it's not easy to short. I don't even know if there's any exchanges where you can short it, but as soon as this level breaks of 1771, or if you wanted to give more space, 1736, that's your exit signal. And that saves you over 5%. Because again, we know a weekly lower high is the most likely scenario, and we know the loss of the daily uptrend is the indication that the weekly lower high has been set, and that's what we're getting. So a drop to lower lows, or I should say a loss of the higher lows, and now we're looking back down at the bottom of 1485 to see if that support level can hold. Link USD, again, most likely scenario. We did not anticipate that we were going to go straight from 218 back over $3 for a continuation move. When there's this much range at play, we look for an equilibrium. So at this point, we've got our high, low of the pullback, lower high. The 12-hour trend change told us that our bottom was in for now. And now we're looking for a higher low compared to 218. And if we wanted to condense this down to the 2-day time frame, a little bit more clear, and we'll look for that higher low compared to 218 in the coming days. ZRX USD. So another one with a very clear double top rejection. And actually we technically broke, very, very barely broke resistance by a fraction of a percent. Now we've dropped down and taken out one support level. make that 273 is the most important support. So we had the high, low, equilibrium on the 12-hour time frame gave us a bull break, but this is how to recognize a fake out. So a bull break over one level, that's great. Now we just have to clear this resistance and see continuation. We rejected. That's when we need to start getting cautious. Bulls were unable to break that resistance level. And now, of course, with correlation to everybody else, we're heading back down towards that recent low. So establish your game plans from here. How are you going to attempt to make your entry for monthly higher lows? For me, being so comfortable playing oversold bounces, like I said, I'm going to enter oversold bounces, position myself by taking partial profit perhaps to try and hold longer term. Otherwise, if you're not comfortable with oversold bounces, you're waiting for daily trend changes. If you're really picky, you're waiting for a weekly trend change. But again, the bottom line is I do feel that's the most likely scenario, and I do think there will be some decent opportunity for some gains when that monthly higher low has been set. After that monthly higher low has been set, gains will be limited for bulls, in my opinion, if we're going to see these monthly equilibriums play out, limited for 4 to 5 months or so. So it's going to get very interesting. No sign of the monthly higher low yet, but certainly keeping an eye out for it. And I hope you have a good rest of your day. Do good things. We'll see you soon and more often as long as this volatility keeps up.
So it doesn't take long for the mycelium network to take hold, maybe 2 or 3 weeks. And you can't really see the scope of this, but there are mushrooms all over this, which is a good thing. So this is where we're going to plant strawberries and a bunch of other stuff. But this mycelium network, number one, it breaks down the wood chips and turns it into soil, but they also act as little highways. So imagine just tons of tiny little roots all interconnected in one organism through the soil, and they actually can transport nutrients. They do studies where one tree can pass nutrients that the next tree is lacking through the mycelium network into its roots. Pretty insane stuff that science is only really just now starting to uncover, but it's always a good thing to see mushrooms around. It's garlic planting day. I'm going to plant some German red, which are the smaller ones on the left, and then elephant garlic on the right. And when I placed my order for the garlic, I forgot that the elephant weight would mean it's way less cloves, but we'll see what we got. We're just going to do the second half of this bed here, which is already onions getting good to go. Still got to thin those out as they go, but I just put them in some salad as they are being thinned. You can see someone was digging around a bit in here last night, it looks like. Fortunately, didn't damage any of the onions, but I do have someone coming to give me an estimate on a fence and trying to get that fence up. The sooner the better. So they're going to go on the other half of this bed here. Just got to take up the cardboard and get any weeds out of there. This is straw that will go on top to keep them warm through the winter. And again, these onions and the garlic will both be harvested next summer. And we'll see how it goes.